Let's talk about Zerg counters to the Void Ray. So we start with the Queen, and the Queen is very good versus the Void Ray. Reason number one, the Void Ray has a huge attack bonus versus armored units, but the Queen is not armored. So the Queen takes very little damage from the Void Ray. And number two, the Queen has an anti-air attack with a range of 7, while the Void Ray has a range of 6. So the Queen has a larger range than the Void Ray, and the Void Ray therefore can never kite the Queen. So the Queen is an S tier counter versus the Void Ray. Then we have the Roach. The Roach is very terrible. So number one, the Roach doesn't have an anti-air attack, so it can't attack the Void Ray. And number two, the Roach is an armored unit. So the Void Ray deals a lot of damage to the Roach and is able to kill the Roach very quickly. We're going to put the Roach into D tier. The Zergling, of course, is also not good versus the Void Ray because the Zergling doesn't have an anti-air attack. But I think I'm going to put the Zergling into C tier because the Zergling is very good at counterattacking versus the Void Ray. So if you play versus a Void Ray player and you use the Zerglings to counterattack, the Void Rays are pretty bad at cleaning up the Zergling counterattack because they deal little damage to the Zergling because the Zergling is not armored. So the Zergling can't fight the Void Ray, but Zergling counterattacks are quite strong versus the Void Ray. So I'm going to put the Zergling into C tier. Baneling. The Baneling also doesn't have an anti-air attack and it's not as good as counterattacking as the Zergling because the Baneling is a bit slower. So I'm just going to put the Baneling into D tier. The Ravager also doesn't have an anti-air attack, so it can't attack the Void Ray. The Ravager is a little bit better than these units because at least it has a bile. So if you are very lucky, if your opponent is not watching, you can sometimes get a bile on the Void Ray, but this is very much dependent on luck. Also, the Ravager is not armored, so at least it doesn't take as much damage compared to the Roach from the Void Ray. But yeah, still, because the Ravager doesn't have an anti-air attack, I'm also going to put it in D tier. Then we have the subscribe button. Subscribe button is very strong because if you subscribe, you're going to get more of these videos and it's going to make you very strong versus the Void Ray and other units. Then we have the Hydralisk. The Hydralisk is very, very good because it's a little bit like the Queen. So the Hydralisk is not an armored unit and therefore the Hydralisk receives very little damage from the Void Ray. So the Void Ray, if the Void Ray attacks armored units, it deals a lot of damage, but if the Void Ray doesn't attack an armored unit, it does very little damage. So the Hydra is not armored. And number two, if you take the range upgrade for the Hydralisk has a range of 6, and this is the same range as the Void Ray's range. So again, the Void Ray is not able to kite the Hydralisk. So the Hydralisk is really an S tier counter versus the Void Ray. Then we have the Corruptor. The Corruptor is bad because number one, the Corruptor has a bonus damage versus massive units, but the Void Ray is not massive. However, the Void Ray has a bonus damage versus armored, and the Corruptor is armored. So the Void Ray deals a lot of damage to the Corruptor, but the Corruptor deals very little damage to the Void Ray. So the Corruptor is a D tier counter to the Void Ray. Then we have the Mutalisk, and the Mutalisk is actually good versus the Void Ray. The Mutalisk is generally a weak unit at fighting. It's more of a harassment unit. But if you want to attack any air unit with the Mutalisk, I think you should pick Void Rays because the Mutalisk is not armored. So the Void Ray does very little damage versus the Mutalisk. And that's the main reason why the Mutalisk is okay. The Mutalisk is generally not a super strong fighting unit. But if you go like equal supply Mutalisk versus Void Ray, the Mutalisk is going to win because it doesn't take a lot of damage from the Void Ray. So I'm going to take the Mutalisk and put it into A tier. Then we have the Infestor. And the Infestor, I think it's not bad. So number one, the Infestor is armored. So the Void Ray is able to kill the Infestor very quickly. So that's bad for the Infestor, of course. But the spells are usable. So number one, the Fungal Growth. You can use the Fungal Growth to deal a little bit of damage to the Void Ray and also to slow the Void Ray down and then maybe kill it with other units like Hydralisk or something. the Microbial Shroud, you can use it to protect your units a little bit from the Void Ray damage. And I think maybe the strongest move is the Neural Parasite, because if you are attacked by a bunch of Void Rays and you use the Neural Parasite on, let's say, half of the enemy Void Rays, and these Void Rays are on prismatic alignment, then your Void Rays are going to kill the other Void Rays very quickly, because the Void Ray itself is armored, so the Void Ray receives bonus damage from the Void Ray. Or also if you have like a Skytoss army, a mix of carriers and Void Rays, and again, if you take the Void Rays and the Void Rays are on prismatic alignment, the Void Rays are able to kill the enemy carriers pretty quickly. So the Infestor is quite usable versus the Void Ray. I'm going to put it into A tier. The Overseer is of course useless versus the Void Ray, because the Overseer is mainly a detector, but the Void Ray has no cloak or anything. I'm going to put it into D tier. The Swarmhost is also useless. Swarmhost has no anti-air attack and Swarmhost is armored, so the Swarmhost dies very quickly if the Void Ray attacks it. I'm going to put it into D tier. The Lurker is also very bad, because the Lurker doesn't have an anti-air attack, but the Lurker is an armored unit, so the Void Ray is able to kill the Lurker very quickly. I'm going to put the Lurker into D tier. The Ultralisk also doesn't have an anti-air attack. Ultralisk is armored, so the Void Ray is able to kill the Ultralisk very quickly. I'm going to put the Ultralisk into D tier. Then we have the Viper, and the Viper, number one, the Viper is armored, so the Void Ray is able to kill the Viper very quickly, and the spells are also not that good. I mean, the only anti-air spell that the Viper has is the Parasitic Bomb, but the Parasitic Bomb deals 120 damage and the Void Ray has 250 HP, so you would need like 3 Parasitic Bombs to kill a Void Ray. And also the Void Ray player can always micro against the Parasitic Bomb, he can split. So the Viper is not entirely useless, but I also don't think it's strong. I'm going to put it into C tier. And the Broodlord finally is of course very bad. It doesn't have an anti-air attack and it is armored. It receives a lot of bonus damage from the Void Ray. So I'm going to put the Broodlord also into D tier. Alright dudes, that's it. Thanks for watching.